Every single manga reader loves a good old psychological manga, like a human drama horror, mind-bending experience like Homunculus, or like a soul-crushing reality-checking messed up manga like Goodnight Punpun. There is a very, very famous manga author by the name of Shuuzou Oshimi, as he created one of the most famous psychological manga called Hana, or The Flowers of Evil. I'm sure you've heard of it. This man alone, though, has published over 10 different manga, with most of them, if not all of them, being psychological. That's why today I'm going to be going over the haunting works of Shuuzou Oshimi. Now, the first Oshimi work that I read in my consumption of his manga was, of course, the one that everyone reads on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, with that being Hana. His most popular work by far, even going so far as getting a really creepy anime adaptation in the spring of 2013. Like a lot of people, this was my introduction to his just uneasy, uncomfortable manga series that he writes in the beginning of the story. This manga starts out, if you know, in a very weird way, as our main character is getting manipulated and blackmailed by one of his classmates. My entire time reading part 1 of this manga was just uncomfortable. Nothing about it was enjoyable in the terms of the way the story made me feel. The first half was just one of those stories where you have to almost pull yourself out of reading it at times just to say to yourself, thank Lord, that's not me. Things happen in this manga that just don't make sense to you, or you even begin to wonder how the main character is able to deal with all the things he goes through. It really is just a haunting feeling of just human grossness. I don't even know if grossness is a word, but it feels like the perfect way to describe the beginning of this manga. Then you go into part 2, feeling absolutely disgusted with the first half, and almost seamlessly, everything changes. The entire vibe of the story. Our main character moved to a different place, has a new group of friends, and starts getting along with a new girl. Part 2 of this manga alone could probably pass as just a slice-of-life romance manga and still be highly praised. I mean, the entire feeling of the story really just changed from part 1. If part 1 was a cold, gross, wet, not fun to look at, but you still peer through the slit in your fingers kind of manga, then part 2 is a warm, soft blanket that pulls you back in, hugging you, almost making you forget about everything that had just taken place. With each chapter that passes by, you wish more and more for our main character to move on and fully live a happy life in this new town where the vibes are everything. Now, I'm not planning on speaking too much on the ending for Hana, as I sort of feel indifferent to it. If you want to experience that, I highly recommend you go and check it out, as this really is just a unique manga reading experience. So I recommend you go and give this one a shot. The next Oshimi manga that I was able to get into and read this past summer was Happiness, and in my opinion, his easiest work to get into, as there's not really too many weird or random kind of uncomfortable things throughout the story. This manga is almost what I would say all vibes in the first half. When our characters are moving throughout the city, it has such good vibes. The pacing, the interactions of our characters feel so almost relaxing, even though some of them are doing some messed up stuff some of the time. The manga just has this weird sort of relaxing feel to it. This story is, of course, a vampire story, and not really like the weird plot of Hana at all. Just kind of deals with things like being a vampire hunted by the government, being immortal, and, of course, happiness. Can you find happiness living forever, watching people around you die and watching the people you love die because, they're not immortal? People like to say that this manga is a little bit like Tokyo Ghoul, and I'll say this as a Tokyo Ghoul hater. The beginning does kind of remind me of Tokyo Ghoul, but the rest, not so much. Now, like most Oshimi works, there is a clear part 1 and part 2, and part 2 of Happiness is a bit weirder than part 1, for sure, going over things like would some people worship vampires like gods, and some cult-like themes, and such and such. Now, I won't be speaking too much on the ending for this manga, as I'm just still unsure how I feel about it, as this isn't just a manga analysis video, but I'm going to recommend Happiness as a great entry point into psychological manga and just Oshimi works in general, as I see this as his most tame work by far. Now, the third and final manga I have read from Shuuzou Oshimi, I read just a couple of months ago, and it is starting to be regarded as his magnum opus. It is still also serializing and is his longest work to date. And that, of course, is Blood on the Tracks. In my opinion, the most haunting and creepiest work he has ever created. Oshimi does an absolutely amazing job creating such an evil and hateable character in the mother of this story, giving our main character major mommy issues as she quote-unquote protects him from stuff that she deems bad, such as friends, girlfriends, and also manipulates him into believing he is the reason for her suffering. Throughout the manga so far, this causes our main character to doubt every decision he makes as the line starts to blur between his decisions and his mother's decisions. It's truly a haunting experience reading this manga. Now, part 2, or what I will call part 2 for now, jumps a little bit into the future when he's now an adult as he talks to himself constantly is seeing his younger self, and is constantly trying to escape being haunted by the emotional scarring that his mother left on him. Now, I haven't gone too far into part 2, as I caught up back when I read it and haven't read it since then. Maybe it's not even part 2, as when it went forward in time, it claimed to be the end of the prologue, so who knows how long this manga could go on for. Currently, right now, there is no ending, so even if I wanted to talk about it, I really can't. And out of all of his works, this is the one I would put above the rest and say if you're going to read this manga, make sure you have your own emotions in check beforehand, as it really just is that unsettling. Now, the artwork in Shuuzou Oshimi manga is just truly just chilling. It's just like I said before, a warm blanket or a wet, gross pair of socks, either pushing you out or pulling you in, creating this otherworldly vibe to his manga through the artwork. As I said before, he has a plethora of other work, with some notable ones that I haven't read yet being Inside Mari and Welcome Back Alice. I have heard decent things about both of those manga, so leave a comment down below if I should check them out. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I am planning to start uploading 3 times a week if all goes well. I will be posting Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Fingers crossed, but if you want even more confirmation of when I'm posting, be sure to hit that bell notification or follow my Twitter down in the description below to know whenever I post a new video. Be sure to check out one of the videos popping up on screen right about now, as well as hitting that like button and subscribing. Leave a comment if you enjoyed the video. All support is greatly appreciated, but as always, thanks for watching. Peace.